All right. Hello and welcome everyone to another Build Refresh 2022. Now, this is Mesa. Mesa, I have recently talked about, as she was the Warframe I decided to bring for the new war and hilariously over-prepared for the new war, meaning that this build is super maxed out and it's mega overkill for any kind of regular content. However, Mesa is just an incredibly powerful Warframe that is good for a large variety of content. So, while this build is super high up, we are going to talk about how good she is if you don't have this super high up build. So, with this is a 6-form build, and it is full Umbral investment, basically. There is an Umbral forma in here. It is full on. Do you need Umbral anything in this build? No, absolutely not. And the number one thing that you could do to make this build way cheaper is to very simply not use Umbral Vitality and not use Umbral Intensify. Does she need Prime Flow? Absolutely not. You do not need Prime Flow. Regular Flow is more than enough. And I would say for honestly probably most people, you're going to be better off with a Streamline and a slightly lower rank Fleeting, especially if you're also going to use regular continuity. Primed is not required. You can get away with this build on much, much less, and you do not need much of anything. Narrow-minded and Transient Fortitude, both of these can be rank 8. It's not going to change a lot. You honestly get like a little bit of benefit off Transient Fortitude being rank 8 because you'll get a little bit of duration back, which means that you're going to have, closer to this amount of duration, which is one of her more important stats, although you will lose off from some of the narrow-minded if you have this also at rank 8. The main important stuff here, also, you can have a completely unranked adaptation. I will say that that is a bit dangerous, but you can absolutely just go a completely unleveled adaptation, no problem whatsoever. That will not hyper negatively impact your build because you're still going to get a really good effect out of that. Things that you definitely are going to want, though, Mesa's Waltz. This can go into your Exilus slot, and this has a bunch of text on it that isn't on it. And what I mean by that is that this does a bunch more than it says it does, because what this says it does is that Mesa can move at 50% speed while using Peacemaker. The other effects of Mesa's Waltz are you no longer have an animation where you draw your guns. They are drawn. So the moment you hit 4, you have your guns. There is little to no delay between you hitting 4 and you being able to shoot people, and that is an upgrade from her regular ability. In addition to that, the narrowing scope of whenever you are shooting Mesa's Peacemakers, if you are moving and you can also roll, you will widen that focus. So you can widen that out to about hallway size by simply rolling back and forth front to back. And those are some really important points about Mesa's Waltz. In addition to, of course, just being able to walk around is very useful, as if you're moving, you are going to get shot less. And even if it's that slight amount of movement, that does matter. And also just being able to slightly reposition so you don't need to recast your 4 and use a lot more energy in order to get things done. So yeah, really highly advised Mesa's Waltz. Is it that hard to get? No, but it's really, really good. Other stuff. Mesa is the premier user of Velocity. On critical hit, 90% chance for 120% fire rate to pistols for 9 seconds. This is a stellar arcane, and I would say it is staple for her. Do you need Arcane Energize? No. Is it nice? Yes. Do you really want Velocity? Honestly, probably more than Energize. Absolutely 100%. This is a huge boost to Mesa, and also will change the build that you use on your Peacemakers. Speaking of the Regulators, not the Peacemakers. The Regulators. The Regulator build is this. Obviously, this is very expensive. Also notable on this build is that we do not use Hornet Strike, and you might be thinking that that's because we are using Galvanized Shot, but that is not the case. So, Hornet Strike has not been used in the Regulators for a good amount of time. And the reason that this build is as it stands right now is because I am using Arcane Velocity. With Arcane Velocity, I would suggest using Galvanized Shot. Without Arcane Velocity, I would highly advise you install Anemic Agility, because we don't really need any base damage, and if you don't have quite as much fire rate, I would really highly advise that, as it's going to allow you to get to the focused state of Mesa's 4 faster, which will deal considerably more damage to targets that need considerably more damage done to them, which is important in Steel Path and also in Disruption. So yeah, that's like the basics of how this works. Otherwise, this build is like pretty much what you're going to find. Do you need Galvanized Diffusion? No. Do you need Primed Pistol Gambit? No. Do you need Primed Target Cracker? No. You can use the lower levels of stuff. Also, in terms of crit, if you're not going to use the primed version of this, please use Creeping Bullseye, as like the negative fire rate is a considerable negative for Mesa, but this is much, much better than a regular Pistol Gambit. That additional 80% really does make a huge difference. So I'd highly advise Creeping Bullseye over Primed Pistol Gambit if you are not going to use Primed Pistol Gambit and you don't have it fully leveled or whatnot. Prime Target Cracker, I would say, is a much higher priority than Pistol Gambit because Creeping Bullseye is now like a thing that you can use. Also, definitely you don't need Primed Heated Charge and all that business. In terms of guns for Mesa, I have a few suggestions. The first and foremost is the Phantasma. This is a great, like, just weapon to have on you. It deals a colossal amount of status, which is a thing that Mesa is not particularly good at. Also, this is usually going to be highly effective on the enemies that Mesa cannot target with her for, which includes like a lot of like the airships and stuff like that. So really, really good for that. Will annihilate those targets very, very easily. Other suggestions, the Redeemer Prime. Redeemer Prime pairs really, really well with Mesa, turns out, as if you are out of energy or in a bad situation, or if the enemy cannot be targeted by your 4, this weapon will annihilate most things with just its overwhelming amount of damage. You can just shove it right into the face of an enemy and they will not be able to take that. Excellent weapon for Disruption, especially whenever you roll the energy drain downside in Disruption for one of the targets. You can just Redeemer Prime that target if you happen to run out of energy, and then they are no longer a problem. So yeah, that's pretty much what's up with Mesa. Other than that, the whole strat with Mesa... Oh, also, I forgot to mention, I have Pillage subsumed on Mesa. Pillage is an excellent ability for Mesa for a multitude of reasons, between the high amounts of damage reduction you're going to have being used with the shields you're going to get from Pillage, and then also with the amount of strength that we're at, we have a 52% drain on both shields on enemies and the armor on enemies. That reduction in armor can make a huge difference in the amount of damage that you dish out. There's just overall a lot of benefits to this. Also, really great thing about this is that it does not need range to function. So even though we're at 34% range, this actually also benefits in terms of its range based on duration. So because we are a Warframe that naturally wants to build a good amount of strength and a good amount of duration, we end up in a place where Pillage is absolutely excellent for us because it just wants all the things that we want. And it's also hilariously better than Mesa's 1, which is her only bad ability. So, in terms of playing Mesa, you can cast her new one, which is Pillage, and drain the shields off enemies and get like a big overshield, and that's very useful. Also, her 2 is just a damage buff for you and one party member at a time, which will rotate through if there are more than one. Her 3 is a big damage reduction, but only on ranged attacks, because it's only from bullets. Basically, anything that comes from range, if somebody melees you, that's bad. But your 2 will also stun enemies that come in at close range, so usually not going to be a problem. And then her 4 obviously is Peacemakers, Regulators. You can use this AoE, as you can see with like the lines around the screen. Anything inside that will be auto-targeted while you hold down left click. You do not have to click for every shot. You're welcome to anyone who didn't know that. And then you will annihilate them. As you shoot enemies, that will get more focused and you'll have to aim more. But when it gets more focused, that will also increase the damage that you deal. Is that usually necessary? No, completely not outside of Steel Path. Outside of Steel Path, there is like basically never any need at all for you to fully focus down. Also, as you can see here with me like moving, you can see how much this widens whenever I'm moving around. Also, an enemy escaped. Yeah, you can see how much this is widening as I am moving. And just like ceasing to shoot will also widen it out, but if I found that moving seems to increase it even more. Yeah, the more bullets you shoot, the more focused you will get, but that can be mitigated by the movement and such. But yeah, that's what's up with Mesa. I do have a Steel Path run. It's not going to be particularly hard because Mesa is incredibly good, but enjoy that, and I will see you tomorrow. All right. I can't imagine this is going to take more than one thing. I'm Mesa. We're going to do the Steel Path test. You guys ready to hear BRRRR? It's Mesa. She's one of the best frames that exists. You guys are going to be real surprised whenever you see her start doing her thing where she's one of the best frames that exists. Oh yeah, Steel Path's so colossally difficult for Mesa. It's going to be a very, very hard time. I don't know how I'm going to get through it.
Sending modified life support capsules. Use these to sustain your environment or attach Kuba catalysts to begin harvesting.
This is Mesa. She turns every room she enters into Ikaruga. That's correct. Just looking at enemies like, you better mode shift soon or you're gonna die. Mesa's the frame where I need to go to the end of the hall to collect all the air because that's where all the enemies died. They died outside of vacuum range because they died so quickly.
Life support on the way.
If we're actually refreshed to a budget build since you did this build for the new war preview, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I'll probably include a budget build. That makes sense to do. Hey, if this is the YouTube video, which it's almost certainly is the case, if I didn't do that, reprimand me in the comments, YouTube. Because there is some chance that I forget to do that between now and then, because this is happening before I record that part of the video. Aw, yes.
Activating it will buy you more time.
Recorded before Immersion Ruin? Oh, man. Wait, why would that matter if it's recorded before or after? Enemies exist, Mesa. I took that personally. It's really correct, though.
Support incoming.
Thanks, Lotus. I appreciate you sending me life support in this trying time. The video must be continuous upon viewing, even if the events were hours apart. I don't think that that's true, though. Because it seemed like people really enjoyed the test being a stream test. If I do it the other way, that means like all my thoughts are entirely concluded and I don't get to do any like actual testing on stream. I'm just like running it on stream for like absolute giggles, right? Because then the build part of the video is done. Because like the whole thing is if I'm doing it on stream, you get to see the runs I'm totally unhappy with, or whenever I put a build together and I'm just like, this Warframe sure is this Warframe. I'm gonna say Mesa has enough DACA. Remember whenever Steel Path launched and Mesa actually kind of did not have enough DACA? Like Steel Path came out and like we actually like had to build her for pillage, like to make her like good enough. Because otherwise, like pre-galvanized and such, like she was like absolutely not hitting. Yeah, Mesa like required the Galvant and stuff. Like people say Mesa's like so OP all the time. And like she's clearly doing good stuff, but this is a very high investment build. Like you're looking at galvanized mods and helmet being used to its like fullest extent. And it's not to say that she's like not good without those things, because like obviously she is. But it's definitely not like, oh yeah, just farm Mesa and then Steel Path. So easy, no effort. You could really see that actually on like the Acolytes, right? Because like the amount of damage that I was doing to that Acolyte was obviously very good. Like, no shot obviously was very good. But one of the big things there is, I was like doing shields. There are a lot of frames that will delete the Acolytes way faster. And even weapons that have like nuking properties that will also do it much quicker. And Mesa can focus fire them down, but the fact that she needs to focus fire them down at all, like her DPS is like definitely enough for like a long run in Steel Path. Whenever you combine her with Pillage, of course. But it's not like she's just like, oh yeah, infinite damage being applied directly to the forehead. Also needs to subsume Hildren, which is locked behind Fortuna for this build. I mean, locked behind Fortuna in that like you have to go to Fortuna. You don't have to get any of the rep or anything. Remember when Steel Path was just ass? Well, yeah. He fixed it, though. I like Steel Path now. But I'm not one of the people that's, like, only ever doing Steel Path, right? Because, like, that just doesn't make sense in a lot of cases. Like, when a new Prime comes out, why would you do Steel Path? But, I definitely like having it here, especially for testing purposes. Because, like, you get to really see, like, on Steel Path, it's, like, where, like, you know, lines can be divided. Because there's, like, there's the subset of the community that's like, oh, we are only doing Steel Path 2 hours or whatever. And that's a very tiny subset of the community. But sometimes you run into, like, what a regular player usually is. And, they're like, oh, well, I'm Rhino. I hit 4, and then all the enemies die. I don't need any of this other stuff. And it's like, okay, well, A, kind of right. B, there is more to this than Rhino hit 4, kill enemies on Earth. Recommendations for abilities to put on Saren for ESO. I'm trying to max out my capacity for the focus changes. I mean, for ESO, Roar? I mean, you don't need any help with ESO with Saren. Like, I mean, that'll make you do more damage faster. Like, if you're just looking to get, like, more clear. Like, you could put Roar on Saren for that. Like, I put Roar on Saren because it was funny. Yeah, you could do Dispensary for energy if that's an issue for you. But, I mean, Saren's one of, like, the most efficient frames in the game, so I don't know if that's really coming up. Saren's really good. Roar, seriously, that just felt too damned obvious. Roar and Saren is funny. It's really comedic. She doesn't need it at all. It's really more comedy than, like, actual purpose. Like, to be totally clear. Yeah, like, if you're doing Steel Path, then, like, on Saren right now, I like Gloom. And that probably will continue. I think Saren actually won't be affected too much by the Xmas changes, because the Xmas are going to pretty immediately be affected by her spores, which will remove her immunity to Gloom, I think. Like, they might increase the challenge level for Saren a little bit in terms of having to pay attention, but I don't think it'll change too much. Whereas other frames who rely on CC to live are going to be like, oh no, I'm dead. Meebs, thank you for the resub. Zada's Whisper will be seeing more use post-update. I don't really know why it would be. People are really high on Zada's Whisper, and I don't get it. Like, if we really need that void damage on our guns or something, then maybe. But I really don't think that's going to happen. All right, this is Malice. I'm just going to be... You, it's always Malice. You son of a bitch. You show up every time. Put your bubble on me, you piece of shit. There it is. Roll out of the bubble. Fucking dickhead. This fucking chode. That's what you get for being a dick to me in the mag run. Now we're here variety streaming? Nepera, thank you for the resub. Much appreciated. Would you consider me a variety streamer at this point? I guess I do stream a lot and a lot of different things. Yeah, you think so? Is it just because of the 80 hours of Elden Ring? For sure? Okay. Oh wait, it's been 10 minutes. And also we did the double acolytes already. God, that went by just in a flash. God, Mesa's just great. You still want to play Warframe even if you suffer? Oh, I don't suffer while playing Warframe. Warframe's great. Don't forget the 45 hours of Horizon. Ooh, that's true. You make an excellent point. Hey, did you guys notice he's dying in this run? I wonder how that happened. It's almost like I played a frame that has, like, colossally good survivability and immense kill power.
It is done.
And the weekly commander streams. That's true. Those are more for me, though. God, I'd love to do more commander content, though. Who wants to do a set review? Just right now. Let's just talk about New Capenna. God. Anyway, that's it for the Mesa video. Thank you, everyone on YouTube. Hope you enjoyed me absolutely going burr.